Welcome to the Digital Manufacturer Podcast, your frontline source for all things digital transformation in manufacturing. I'm your host, Mark Flynn, and I'm here to guide you through the evolving landscape of manufacturing. In each episode, we'll uncover the stories of innovation that are defining the industry, offering insights and strategies that help to drive growth and efficiency. Join us as we speak to thought leaders and visionaries who share their journeys and the lessons they've learned along the way. So let's dive into today's episode and discover what the future holds for the digital manufacturer. On today's episode of the Digital Manufacturer, we are excited to have Rebecca Galley with us, Managing Director of Hydroscand UK, former President of the British Fluid Power Association, and Manufacturer 100 alumni. Hydroscand is an international and family-owned business specialising in hosing and fittings. Established for the last 20 years in the UK, they manufacture, distribute and install hose assemblies for hydraulic and industrial applications. Rebecca specialises in refining operational efficiencies and driving growth through strategic implementation of digital tools and business development initiatives. Her leadership and innovative approach have led to Hydroscand through periods of substantial growth and adaptation. Rebecca, it's great to have you with us today. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, thank you. And I appreciate you coming on today. Rebecca, to kick off the conversation, I would love to get a bit more information about you, your experience, how you came to being the Managing Director of Hydroscand UK, and also what the business does and the customers that you serve.
Yeah, so I'm currently Managing Director of Hydroscand in the UK. Hydroscand is a international family-owned business specialising in hose and fittings. In the UK, we manufacture and install hose assemblies, and we're doing that from a number of locations, and we have mobile installation team as well. So it's a very interesting business serving a whole range of industries from renewable energy to waste management to constructions. Lots of interesting things going on with Hydroscand. Prior to being Managing Director of Hydroscand, I have had a career in always very industrial settings. Started out selling PPE before it was fashionable, telesales and then field sales, and then moved into the construction industry. Worked for SIG, which is a huge business, head office in Sheffield. I spent a few years in Sheffield and then held a general management role in one of their branches up in Leeds. And after that, between SIG and Hydroscand, spent 3.5 years with Cromwell Tools, a very well-known industrial tools distributor, and also fitted in having a child at some point along the way.
That's a really broad experience across a number of different sectors, Rebecca. I can't wait to explore those in a bit more detail. Just before we get into that, I also noticed from your profile that you are a Manufacturing 100 alumni. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about what that means and how you got awarded that.
So the Manufacturer is a magazine, and they every year recognise 100 people within the sector for various different aspects. I think mine was to do with actually innovation, digital transformation, as well as leadership. And I was the class of 2023. I think at that we made up the 1,000th alumni of the Manufacturer Top 100. It's a huge honour for me to be recognised in that group. Some fantastic people before and subsequently on the list.
It is a huge honour, and I think actually you might have played down the manufacturer. The manufacturer is the voice within the UK industry for the manufacturing and sector. So to be awarded that recognition and to be in that esteemed list of manufacturers is a great honour. What was the digital innovation that kind of got you the award?
The thing specifically that we focused on for the award was the fact that within Hydroscand, we went fully digital with our field service team. So we went from paper-based job sheets to a full digital system where the teams in the office and out on site with customers can do everything digitally. So full sort of job sheet and job management system. Customers can also log in and record their own jobs and download job sheets, risk assessments, should they wish to. I think it was that specific digital change that was focused on.
That's fantastic. And what sort of benefits is the business now seeing as a result of that digital innovation?
There's been lots of benefits to the business from implementing that system. Previously, as I mentioned, we had paper job sheets And there was never 100% hit rate of all the paper job sheets returning to the office. There's always one in someone's lunchbox or washing machine. But yeah, it's the real-time aspect of it. So we know real-time where the technicians are, which customers they're working with, what stage of the job they're at. The customer experience is far better. It's a much more professional experience. We can send job sheets immediately after the technicians have left site. There's always a record to say they can manage their own job sheets and risk assessments should they want to. The team is safer. Every single job has a point of work risk assessment. It's not optional. They have to be completed. And we can monitor things and analyze things like first time fix rates, so we can then improve on the service going forward. We can look at trends for which jobs we don't fix first time and so on. So it's been hugely beneficial. And from a sort of financial perspective, it reduces the number of invoice queries and increases the time we get paid. So lots of benefits.
That's fantastic, because I know a lot of businesses within the manufacturing sector are really striving to become paperless. That's the kind of North Star that a lot of folks are driving towards. How did you guys go about sitting down to design that project or that program and choose the technology that you wanted to implement?
It's a good phrase you've used there about having a North Star. When I joined Hydroscand, there was an overwhelming desire to have a digital system. Everyone wanted it, which is a huge benefit with any kind of digital transformation project. Actually, everybody wanted it. So that was a great start. We must go digital was the drive. And we reviewed some different systems. So we looked at, I think, 4 in total different systems. One, just a non-starter from a financial point of view. One was a non-starter from a user experience point of view. So then we got down to sort of 2, and then I involved the people who would be doing the job, experts in on-site hose replacement and people who literally were doing the job. So we got the best possible feedback, and then we made the selection to go with, it's a system called Job Logic, which has been great for us, really. They were really easy to deal with. The training was fantastic. The system is so simple. So we went ahead with that.
That's brilliant. Look, there's a couple of kind of nuggets that you mentioned there in terms of your selection criteria. The first is thinking about the user experience and how easy it is for your engineers or your operators to use the tool. It's a big factor that some folks just don't think about. And the second is Job Logic is one of those SaaS-based tools, so a software as a subscription tool. So it's cloud-based, it's easy to deploy, it's relatively easy to configure as well, I'm sure, which allows, I'm guessing, a rapid implementation and a lower time to value.
Yeah, exactly. So we managed to set it up. So we have an ERP system anyway, so we weren't trying to use it as an ERP. So the deployment was really the setting it up on the devices, and it literally is download an app, training for the teams, which we invested in because it's so important. And then the setup was literally, I designed the job sheet. It's that easy to do. And we had some help from them to upload the product file. It was really straightforward. So the deployment was very straightforward, but the usability was key. So the system that we dismissed, I won't go into which one it was, but it just wouldn't have worked for the team. So what's the point? It could be the flagship global brand, but it would have been very difficult for the team to use, and therefore they wouldn't have done it. So we wouldn't have got anywhere with it. It has to be easy for the team. That's almost above all the other criteria for me.
And how did you go about driving adoption? So usability is one thing, but often when we are working with clients and we're rolling out new systems, particularly to the field, often what you get back from the engineers is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And we're not going to use, I've been doing this on paper for 15, 20, 25, 35 years. I'm not going to start using a digital device. So how did you approach driving adoption amongst your team?
So again, as I mentioned, I had the huge benefit that they'd been shouting for it. So the team wanted our digital solution. So then we were able to provide one that was relatively straightforward. There wasn't a massive amount of resistance, which makes things a lot easier compared with other projects. And I was patient about it. So I did not expect that we would switch it on and everyone would use it day one. I didn't expect that would happen. What I expected was we would switch it on and some people would use it, which they did. And we took feedback from the people who were using it, and we were able to make a couple of tweaks to make it easier. Also, as I said, some of the team were involved in the selection, and also the team were involved in selecting the hardware. So I'm not doing the job, they are. So they told me what devices they needed, and that's what we went with. And then sort of more and more people got involved. It was a question of encouraging people, sharing the good news, making sure everyone was trained, talking about it, going round to the branches and meeting with the team to talk about it. And as I say, patiently allowing a period of time until we got to, I think, maybe 6 months after deployment. And then it was a question of, it's always the way, isn't it? 80-20. So the 20% who hadn't adopted, then it was a question more of, we really need you to do this now, and everyone else is doing it, and we've ironed out the problems. And amusingly, the last group of people to get involved, when I had the year-end conversation, that group of people said to me, it's really good, this system, isn't it? Customers love it. Don't know why we didn't do it earlier. So we got there in the end.
Absolutely. Well, look, congratulations. The other thing I'm kind of hearing through that is you as managing director had a really hands-on role as part of that deployment. Can you talk to me a little bit about why you did that? Because I'm sure you have tons of other things to be managing within the business. So I know from a lot of our listeners, they would be managing directors in similar sized businesses thinking digital transformation, I'll give that to the financial controller or the ops director or somebody else to do it. But you seem to be really hands-on as part of this.
Yeah, absolutely, I was. And as I mentioned, Hydroscand is a very big international organisation, but within the UK, we're, to all intents and purposes, an SME. So the team isn't enormous, and people are gainfully employed serving our customers, which is as they should be, or in production, which is as they should be. And I guess I've got some experience from previous roles and previous businesses that I could bring along, but also it was a really important project. It was a very high priority. So it made sense for me to be involved in supporting the team, but also leading conversations with providers and any negotiation. And then, as you say, I was very much involved in helping people to come along the journey with it. But I think that is the leader's role, especially in a small business. In preparation for this discussion, sort of written down some good IT implementation digital transformation projects and some bad ones. And the good ones are the ones where everyone is involved together.
I absolutely agree. I mean, we would see digital leadership as one of the kind of critical success factors for any transformation project. And it always comes down to making those hard decisions during the design or the vendor selection process, and then being the person that drives the adoption throughout the workforce, reminding people of the whys that you're getting involved, this system's being deployed or this change is being deployed, and the benefits not only to the customer, but also to them to ensure successful adoption. Because 9 times out of 10, it's never a system's fault as to why a transformation goes wrong. It's always going to be the adoption piece. If the team aren't using it or don't use it to its full potential, it's just a waste of money, in my view.
Absolutely right. And the system takes the blame, regardless of the reality.
Absolutely. Well, look, seeing as you've prepared a list, talk me through what you think, in your experience, are some of the things that drive good digital transformation projects and the things that drive bad digital transformation projects.
I think we've already touched on some of the good. Yeah, look, some things will work or not work regardless of everything. I don't know the statistics you must do on how many digital implementation projects fail. I'll wager it's a lot.
I think it's 70%. It's wild. Absolutely wild.
That is a lot of wasted time and money for sure. But I think some of the success criteria are leadership involvement, business involvement from the beginning. So what I mean by that is, and again, I've just said the system takes the blame. Also, a lot of IT departments take the blame, but you can't drive a digital transformation with only an IT department on the project team. They're obviously critical, but there has to be business involvement. It has to be a commercial project. The customer has to be first in your list of why you're doing something. So customer first, business involvement, leadership involvement, and as I mentioned with the project we just spoke about, user involvement, the people who are going to use the thing, the system, the tool, whatever it is, they have to be involved, because if a project team that doesn't include those users makes a decision and then it's really hard to do, it will fail, the project will fail. So I think getting all of those people involved early on, and then communication, proper project management, good project management. And again, when we're talking about SMEs, And why did I get involved? We don't have the resources within our business. We don't have a huge IT department. In fact, we don't have any in the UK. We don't have data experts. We don't have professional project managers. We have people who manufacture and install hose assemblies and serve customers. So that's a big gap, I think. So it's drawing on experience and resource, but the right resource at the right time. And again, these things, when you're not familiar, can get very expensive and very out of control very quickly.
Absolutely. And I think as well, I don't know JobLogic as a vendor, but it sounds like you chose a good vendor. They worked really proactively with you to get you the result that you needed within the business.
Yeah, they did. JobLogic were great to work with because the system itself is so easy to work with. We had a person from JobLogic who was responsible for helping us get set up. And then we've had I don't know what they call them, account manager or customer success manager, potentially, someone who is then our relationship with JobLogic, who's been on hand. And there've been some great people too. But I go back to the training. The training was superb. There was a young man who delivered the training, and obviously he trained a lot of engineers, technicians on the road doing lots of different types of things. This was one of the things that helped us to choose the system, actually, was that there were already 1,500 people using the system, albeit not for hose replacement, but for other field-based services. So the people at JobLogic knew what we were up against. They knew the types of things we were going to ask already. So they had good experience. They were really personable, and they delivered the training in a way that worked for the team.
I love it. I came from a SaaS background, and in SaaS, you're always on the other side of the fence. You're always worried about retaining your revenue and your subscriptions. So you've got a big drive in customer success and making sure that the customer is getting real value from the subscription that they're purchasing. And I think it's a game changer when it comes to licensing technology, because in the past it used to be you bought your license up front and you paid a small amount of maintenance and the vendor kind of said, see you later, I have my money now, good luck. Where with subscription basis, not only do you reduce your capital expenditure, you can deploy them faster, but they're also incentivized by the nature of they want to make sure that you keep paying the subscription to do a really great job from a value perspective, an ongoing value perspective. That's really interesting. So what's next then, Rebecca? Have you got any other projects in mind? What's the kind of general perception of the industry challenges within manufacturing space for Hydroscan?
For Hydroscan, we have a couple of things on the horizon from a digital point of view. We have been working extensively behind the scenes to get an e-commerce platform up and running. And we're also in the throes from a group level of updating our ERP. So that's a group-led, group-wide project, which is ERP changes, huge project. Don't necessarily need to go into in detail, but yeah, the e-commerce is very exciting. But when you talk about manufacturing in general, the UK discussion is always about productivity, efficiency, lack of skills, and what can and can't be done from a technological point of view to overcome some of those issues.
Yeah, like for businesses like yours, we typically see problems around inventory management and being able to forecast production against changing demand. Well, not so much changing customer demand, but changing supply, I should say, being able to source raw materials on a timely basis. And that's where systems are kind of driving efficiencies by being able to manage that data all in one place and provide access to base level reporting, but at an advanced level, machine learning or analytical models for forecasting out demand.
So we have done that. We've just implemented a system this January for exactly what you just described, inventory management, inventory forecasting. And it's really quite sophisticated because it runs through the group. So there's obviously multi-tiers of supply and demand within the group, as well as customers and suppliers externally. So very clever system. But what I do say to the team is no system knows if you win or lose a customer unless you tell it. It will catch up very quickly, but it can't know that you're going to need something you've never needed before in 2 weeks' time unless you tell it.
That's a really unique way of saying garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, but it's very, very clever, and it can forecast on a multitude of levels how many widgets we need to make next week. But if we have a new sale for a new widget that it's never seen before, how could it possibly know?
I know, it's wild. It's wild. People spend so much money in implementing systems and then it is garbage in. If you don't update it, everything downstream doesn't work and the magic is then lost. How do you guys put together your digital roadmap, or do you have a digital roadmap? I mean, how does that get formulated? How do you think, right, well, we've done our field management system now, we need to do e-com, we need to do whatever the next thing is. How does that happen in Hydroscand?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, it's an international group. So the sort of master roadmap resides in the group head office in Stockholm, and then the different parts of the business will join in with the parts that are relevant to them. Some of it fits everybody, the ERP, the inventory management, that's very much group led. But then not every part of Hydroscan has field service in the same way that we do. So some of those things are more on a local basis. But yeah, there is a master roadmap from a group point of view. And then locally, we'd look at key priorities.
Absolutely. Okay. So the grand plan or the enterprise technology is owned by group, and then the individual geographical divisions will deploy whatever technology they need to meet their specific needs.
Yeah. So, for example, in Norway, they've implemented a hose asset management system because they're working a lot in offshore. They're doing a lot of work with vessel operators, oil rigs, and so on. And that's unique to the Norwegian team. So, they've done what they need to do locally for that. And then at some point, the rest of the group may or may not join in.
I love it. And the other thing that's on my mind is just around training and I suppose digital maturity of workforce. Because one of the things that we see across other customers is there's a lack of digital maturity among specialist manufacturing workforces. So highly specialized engineers or highly specialized operatives, but not necessarily digitally native. And I know that you guys were awarded the Great Place to Work, whether it was 23 or 22, I can't remember, but it was recent enough. How do you go about thinking about training and upskilling and digitally maturing your workforce to not only make best use of the tools that you have today, but also think about what tools could be deployed in the future?
So we were awarded the Great Place to Work certificate actually both years, 22 and 23. So that, I'm very proud of that. But it goes back to making things easy for people. And also, as I mentioned, we're experts in hydraulics, in hose assembly and hose production. We're not experts in the latest thing to come from Silicon Valley. We really don't understand it. So it's about making things easy for people. For example, we've implemented a digital way of working with health and safety records, which involves QR codes. But we literally stick a QR code next to the fire alarm and then someone can scan it with their phone. And the managers, the production specialists, they're not digital natives, but we try to make it really easy. And again, I'm not patronizing anyone. They're fantastic at what they do, but that's not digital as a rule for us.
I get it totally. I mean, the reason I asked the question is because the majority of the folks that we come across are building complex products. So I'm always surprised when someone says, I wouldn't know how to use that system. And I'm kind of like, well, you've been manufacturing this complex product for 15 years. It's no more difficult. In fact, it's a lot less difficult. But I think the key point there is, and I do want to call it out just as a kind of mirror reflecting, you guys have strong digital leadership, particularly in a group and also in the UK business from yourself. That's got nothing to do with depth of experience in digital skills, but just pure leadership in terms of we know we need to make this change. We know we need to make it together. And here are the benefits. And this is how we're going to go about it, which I think is really unique because not every managing director that we come across is investing that amount of time hands on in the project. So that's a big takeaway from me. The second is there's a focus from you in terms of making it easy and making sure that the team are involved right at the start, as opposed to suddenly being told they have to test this new system at the end of a project, or they have to start submitting timesheets or start submitting job sheets from this app day one. You kind of got them embedded in the process right at the start, from the selection process right through to the actual devices they're going to use. So I think those are two really things that are worth calling out for anyone that's listening to the podcast and thinking about how to be more successful when it comes to digital transformation and digital adoption.
Thank you.
Any parting thoughts or guidance you would give to any of your listeners who are just about to put in a field management system? They'll know who they are. So any parting wise words or advice that you'd give your OMDs?
Well, I think you've just summarised it really nicely. Thank you very much. And I'm very happy to chat to those people, whoever they may be. If they want to look me up on LinkedIn, that's no problem. But yeah, just keep it simple. And I guess if it feels like things are getting very expensive and the timeline is going further and further away, then stop and rethink. I don't know what other advice I could give, really.
That's brilliant. Rebecca, if people want to connect with you, is LinkedIn the best place?
Yes, please. You'll easily find me there.
If anyone in the UK needs industrial hosing?
Oh, then definitely Hydroscand are the people to help.
Absolutely. Rebecca, that's been fantastic. Thank you very much for your time and your experience. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for tuning into The Digital Manufacturer. We hope that today's conversation has provided some food for thought or sparked new ideas that will help you on your digital journey. To learn more about any of these topics discussed in the episode, head over to our website www.rubictech.co. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review us on your favourite podcast platform to help others join in the digital manufacturing movement. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a future episode. The Digital Manufacturer is brought to you by Rubik, where we're not just talking about the future, we're making it happen. On behalf of everyone at Rubik, thank you for listening.